Hello, and happy Thursday, or happy Wednesday. I apologize, I'm jumping the gun here. Happy Wednesday to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us here on In the Loop. We are back on Wednesday. Today's such a treat. Now, as you know, today is obviously a big day. Lots of stuff going on in news this week as we head into the holidays. But we want to start and just say welcome to the show. If you're watching us on a replay, thanks so much for joining us on replay day for you. And if you're joining us live, don't be shy. Let us know where you're joining us from, what channel you're on, how you're feeling today, because Greg and I are here. Welcome to In the Loop with Winnie and Greg. Before I jump in there, Greg, how you doing today? How's your week been?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you. Good to see everybody joining us too. Yeah, it's weird that it's almost the end of the year right now. That still keeps kind of tripping me out, but otherwise doing great. And like I said, it's nice to be here on a Wednesday too. That was throwing me off. I kept thinking it was Friday, Thursday. It's Wednesday. Wednesday is where we're at. Yes. And yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm Greg Nibbler, longtime tech reporter, covering all kinds of things. I'm a podcaster, a lot of different hats, but what I like to talk about the most is fun tech. And I've got some things that we're going to be covering here in a little bit. For you who have iPhones, particularly, these are some updates that you might want. But if you're an Android user like me, we can debate whether or not you want these updates for yourself too. We've got some robots, of course, and probably the coolest theme park that maybe has ever been invented. I don't know. It's a debate, but to me, it looks pretty cool. There might be one other thing that could top it, but we have that too coming up. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. And we love seeing comments come through. So please drop those in there, as we go throughout the show. If you're watching on replay, you can still comment too and send us messages, but always so much fun to be here.
Thank you so much, Greg. Well, a new amusement park. I'm going to guess Joshua is going to really love hearing that. I actually see CrossX Fighter joining us on YouTube Live. What a treat. I want to hear about this new amusement park. I'm guessing I might have to get on a plane soon just for this, right, Greg? But I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
I don't know if you will, though.
Oh, so that's what we'll have to see. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to catch it. I can't wait. So that I'm hoping. So you got to stay to the end of the show for that, because I'm definitely going to be here to hear that. So yeah, absolutely. Understatement of the year. Greg is like the total powerhouse in the tech space, robotics, everything cool, basically. And if you didn't know, he was also a longtime reporter on digital trends and also the NBA. Just to name drop a few very small entities there. Hello, I am Winnie Sun, as you know, longtime financial pro, CNBC council member, Forbes contributor, and also host of Level Up, which is another live stream show that can be found also on NASDAQ and Amazon Fire, just to name a few. So how I usually start the show off here is to talk about how the financial stuff happen, how we close the day, because we want to save room for obviously interesting stuff that we'd love to hear about, what Greg's going to share. But this we need to know. How did our money do today? Well, the Dow closed down 142 points, the NASDAQ down 85 points, and the S&P 500 also down 24 points. So unfortunately, not the best day, triple down day. And part of the reason that occurred was that the Fed came out and of course they increased interest rates yet again by half a percent, or 50 basis points, which you might say, well, that doesn't sound so bad, Winnie, because wasn't it previously 0.75%? In fact, it was. But what makes it bad is this now takes our benchmark interest rate here in the United States, now that's been increased by the Federal Reserve, to the highest it's ever been in 15 years. So that means that if you have any debt, aside from fixed interest debt, like mortgages, for example, well, this is probably a bad day for you, because things are just going to get to be a little bit even more expensive. Now, of course, the reason why they're doing this and continue to increase interest rates is this is to help mitigate rising inflation. Now, you may have remembered we talked about the November numbers, the consumer price index, as the inflation was still increased, still higher than we want it to be, but somewhat better than expected. But that being said, it's really not that much better, because one article that I read, and several articles on this topic recently, is just talking about how although certain things didn't increase as much, namely gas and some of these other items, grocery prices jumped by 12% in November from a year prior, 12% on the cost of grocery. And I'm sure most of you who are watching this show have to pay for groceries. So 12% on your basic necessity, consumption prices is a really big difference in inflation. So that's definitely a negative. And so you're seeing a lot of that pressure kind of trickle in. And of course, one big thing, if you didn't see the announcement earlier today, is the Federal Reserve said that they probably aren't going to lower interest rates anytime soon. In fact, they think we're going to be challenged by inflation for the rest of 2023, and they don't see interest rates actually coming down until 2024. So that was certainly concerning, and that's why you're seeing the negative reaction on the stock market as well. Okay, now another story that I thought I want to make sure to put on your radar. This was sort of big news. And I'm curious to see, Greg, how you feel about this too. So the Department of Justice and the SEC, which regulates, financial entities and whatnot, just charged a group of social media influencers in the realm of $100 million alleged scheme of a stock dump, and it's called the pump and dump. So what they do is they basically talk about different stocks on social media, and then when the stock price increases, they would then sell it and they would make a bunch of money on it without doing the proper disclosures and whatnot. So this was considered definitely fraud. This occurred on Twitter and Discord amongst many other platforms, but there's going to be like civil complaints, criminal charges. Have you seen this, Greg? Did you see this article?
I saw it briefly earlier today, and I didn't get a chance to get into it. So that explains it a lot more to me as far as what's going on. But that's kind of nuts. I feel like that's going to open up a whole lot of things as far as that seems like it may be more prevalent, I guess is what I'm saying, than perhaps was known beforehand. Mm-hmm. But these guys just talking about that and then dumping the stocks. I mean, that's $100 million. Like that's huge, going after individual social media influencers. Like, I feel like there's a lot of people that are probably thinking about what they've done right now, and if they're possibly in
should be worried.
Targets. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as well.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Right, because I think for financial advisors who are licensed and what, there's so many things you cannot do on air, right, written on social and whatnot. Very heavily regulated industry. So then you have people who are unregulated doing this because they're influencers, but they're not actually licensed professionals.
Yeah.
But there's a responsibility. So I'm really glad that this is happening, because I think in order to keep the financial markets honest, these types of things need to happen. So I want to say a quick hello. Also, Greg, we got to say hello to Carlos on YouTube Live, and we Carlos. See Sadiq jumping in on LinkedIn Live and YouTube Live. Thank you, Sadiq, for coming on both platforms. We love to see that. But Greg, I want to talk to you about this other story. I'm sure you saw this as well, but I feel like we've been talking a lot about Elon, but it's just because he's always dominating the news today.
He is,
but
yeah.
This was really interesting. So I know we talked a little bit about another issue that we'll talk about in just a second, but so in San Francisco, so I saw this in San Francisco, there's a lot of talk about Elon's not paying his rent. He's not paying Twitter rent. And so they're not paying a lot of their bills. For Twitter, for vendors, for office leases. And it's not even just happening in San Francisco. They're saying it's happening through all the different Twitter locations. So they think that, well, if it's happening in all these locations, it's probably coming from Elon himself. That's kind of weird, right?
I mean, isn't that the classic billionaire move, is just don't pay your bills and what's anybody going to do about it? Yeah, that's, I mean, how do you even back that up and say that you're not paying your rent? I saw one thing, he said it's using as a negotiating tactic, but your bills, I saw someone was like $200,000 just in like flights and travel expenses that they're just not paying. I mean, you can't just not pay, It's one thing if they're filing for bankruptcy, and maybe he is, I don't know, enough to say whether he's setting
that's
up
pretty big bankruptcy.
Yeah, it's pretty big bankruptcy. Yeah. So
$43 billion.
It's like, come on, man, and he has clearly, he's the richest guy in the world. He can cover that.
Second now. He just lost his rankings here this week.
So he's hurting a little bit, but still second richest man.
That's not so bad, right?
Not too shabby. Yeah, but I mean, just stiffing people, especially when the economy is like this, and those are probably people who need that money. I mean, that trickles down to a lot of people. I don't know. That's just not a cool move.
It's not a cool move, and it's really interesting because in the commercial real estate space, there's a saying that when the tenants don't pay, they're not going to be staying, right? So the question is he going to start to? I mean, he's lost a lot of his employees, so is he going to start to close down offices? But then he doesn't let them work from home, so
yeah. And I did see something trending too on Twitter, and I didn't have a chance to like dive into it too much about that he's going to be moving Twitter's headquarters, which would make sense that he would leave San Francisco, go to like Austin or somewhere in Texas, most likely. Houston, I don't know, but yeah, I saw that was trending as well, that he's going to leave and take that with him. I mean, there's not that many employees left out there that maybe they'll all have to be moving to Texas soon, but
I can't see
it's just
Francisco
every day it's something else.
Twitter people, every day something else, and and it's Cecilia saying, I think this is the difference between being worthless billionaire and not paying a rental. So, this is news. This is news, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening with Elon, but this is news, and actually, we got to talk about this. Is Jack Sweeney, right? Jack Sweeney, he's a young person in Florida, I believe, or Texas, I'm not sure which state. Oh, no, in Florida. He's a college student in Florida. He owns the Twitter account, Elon Jet. Greg, what's happening with Elon Jet?
Yeah, so this is one of those ones where if nobody's ever followed him before, you probably heard about him, but he tweets out, it tweets out where Elon is, where his private jet takes off and where it lands and what their flight path is. Those are public records too. I mean, you can go on, there's a few different websites. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's one that will track like every plane in the air all over the world. So that's public info, but he specifically has Elon's info and it tweets it out where he's taking off from, where he's landing. And Elon Musk specifically said that he would not suspend that account because that's part of free speech, even though he said
last month he tweeted that.
Yeah. And what happened today? Suspended. Yeah.
And he claimed the reason is because even though it's free speech, right? He said that this is because it's a direct personal risk.
But aren't there a lot of that if you put it into that kind of context? I mean, not necessarily a plane, but I mean, if you're posting where anybody is, then wouldn't that be a direct safety risk to someone? I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with posting where somebody is at all times, but if that's going to be your stance, you better enforce that all around. And it's not just, you, but also it's completely opposite of what he said.
Right. Absolutely. So that's what's happening with Elon. Yeah. I mean, those are some of those like headlining things.
It always is.
Yeah, but I always try to I try to throw the baton over to you on a positive note. So I do have one more thing to share that I think is sort of good news. Now, it probably isn't going to relate to every one of us here on the show, obviously, but the good news is we all have people that we love in our lives, and perhaps as parents, perhaps as grandparents. Some good news for them is that Social Security checks are going to be coming next month, in the month of January, and they will have the largest cost of living adjustment in 40 years. Okay. So this is a great thing. Because of inflation, they're going to be increased by almost about 8.7%, in fact. And so for most people, this is going to be an extra like $120 a month. So this is a big thing. So if you have parents or grandparents who are receiving Social Security, let them know that they can expect a bigger check in January, and hopefully that's a little bit of breathing room, especially since we know that groceries and a lot of their expenses, medical and everything else, has gone up. So just thought I'd share that with you because I know many of us are getting together with our family, and if we have older family members who are receiving Social Security, this is probably good news to share with them. And that's what I got today, Greg. Not too much. It's kind of been a quieter week in news.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is good news to go off of right there. I mean, it's been fairly quiet in tech as well. I mean, it's the end of the year. Things are kind of wrapping up. Not a lot coming out, but there are a few things that I did want to talk about. So we're going to transition over to this. For those of you who have an iPhone, at least a newer-ish iPhone, maybe the really old ones, this won't matter. There is a new update for you that came out today, actually, I believe. So you probably noticed you have the option to do this, and this is for iOS 16.2. Another one of those iterative updates that Apple will roll out. Probably a lot of these will happen before iOS 16 or 17, but here is what we are looking at. So I wanted to just talk about a few of the things that are there. So one of them, being you're going to have more options for your lock screen. This seems like a big focus that Apple's had with this iOS, which is a little bit Android-like. I'm going to be fair on that, where you can overlay things over your lock screen. You can have, sports scores showing up. There's different customization options for your home screen too. So you'll have new kind of widgets and things to play around with there that you might want to take a look at when you do that update, see if there's maybe something you'd be interested in having shown up there. So you've got that part of things. A couple other things here going down the list. You've got some more gaming options. So if you want to FaceTime call somebody while you're playing a game, you can do that. So if you're big into gaming on your iPhone, or that's something that you want to do, you can kind of share that experience a little bit more. Again, some little updates as we're going through these. Let's see, Apple TV. The Apple TV app is now going to allow you to follow sports teams, and so you have some scores there. Improved home app. So little things like that are kind of coming through that are just going to give you more options for customization and more options to have different notifications on there. But here's one that I think is pretty interesting, and I'm really curious for people out there if this is something you will use or not. I do like karaoke, and this is something that I think is kind of cool. Could be cool. It's called Apple Music Sing. And what it's doing is it's harnessing all of those millions, tens of millions of songs that Apple Music has. And now it's going to give you an option, a volume option, a control option to actually lower the volume of the vocals on a track and then show the lyrics so you can sing over it. Essentially, it's turning all of its music collection into kind of a karaoke home collection that you can use. If you can do it, I guess you can adjust it to either, sing along with the vocals, lower the vocals almost all out, do a duet with whatever the song is, and have those lyrics show up on there too. That, I think, that's kind of cool. I like that idea of basically giving yourself, a home karaoke setup. If it works well, taking vocals out can be a tricky thing on this, but I'm sure Apple's figured it out. I haven't tried it myself yet, so anybody out there who has tried it, let me know. But Winnie, what do you think about this? I don't know if you sing karaoke or not. I can't remember. I know we've talked about this before.
You know what? I'm one of those closet karaoke people. I think like when I sing karaoke, you don't want to hear about. But I will say I love this concept because number one, you just said it came with a new rollout. So I'm definitely going to upgrade my iOS right now.
Yeah.
The second thing is I think, it's interesting. I was just talking to a good friend of mine and they said that they had bought this handheld device so that they could sing karaoke and they thought it was the coolest thing. And now if it's built into your phone and you don't need to spend money for another device, I think this is absolutely so fun. And I love how Apple has, obviously harnessed a lot of technology in the health space and then fitness space. And now they're doing something fun. I think this is great for mental health and giving yourself a release. And I love the fact that they're incorporating it with all of the Apple Music catalog because you're using technology. But how smart for Apple, because now there's another reason for you to subscribe to Apple Music, which also puts some pennies into their wallet as well. But without saying that we want you to subscribe, you're going to use it and you're going to realize that you want to subscribe because you want some of your music that you can't get for free.
Yeah.
So kind of brilliant.
Yeah, it is. It is smart. I mean, there's websites and there's places you can go out there for the karaoke side of things too, but this just putting it right in there, definitely a bonus to add on to the subscription.
Greg, I feel like for you, it's like, I feel like Apple is calling. I think Apple is watching our show, Greg, and what would Greg want? What can
I don't know what you're talking about.
Greg, over to the Apple side.
I just signed my contract on this, but that it's kind of enticing. It's kind of enticing right there.
I mean, Sadiq is saying Android has something has iOS good vibes. Sadiq also said that talking about that previous story about the data of the planes and ships are public domain from FAA and naval authorities. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, Greg, maybe it'll work on other Apple devices. I don't know, right?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
maybe it will. Those are some of the updates there. So there's also some security updates, so important things on that. And there was one other one for AirDrop too. It's going to change it. So if you put it to everyone, and this has probably happened to somebody at some point, you get an AirDrop you don't want. Now it's going to automatically change that. It'll be everyone, but it'll only have it in that option for 10 minutes, and then it'll go back to contacts only. So you don't have to remember to change that. It'll do it automatically for you.
That's smart.
Yeah, so that's another one where there, but there's a lot. There's tons more of little updates that came out with this. So I encourage everybody to take a look. I'll post an article to you that kind of runs through some of them and see if there's some you want. But yeah, the Apple Music Sing, that's a pretty cool one. That's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I've got a couple other things. So, it wouldn't be this show if I didn't talk about a robot, if there's a robot to talk about. And I do have that. It's from a company called Piaggio Fast Forward. Sounds Italian, but they're based out of Boston. And they've had a robot that's been out for a while called the Jita. And now they've got a new one that it debuted a little while ago, but they're really pushing it now for the holidays called the Jita Mini. So here's what this robot is. It's like 2 wheels. It's got this big center base on it that has cargo space in the middle of it that you can put things in. Now, their idea, what they're talking about is that, I guess, according to one of their studies, which this seems like a lot, but as far as Americans, most Americans make 4 short trips in their cars a day, which that seems high to me, but maybe that's accurate according to their study, and they want to reduce some of that. So the thing is, they look at it, especially this is targeted towards a city, where say you got to go get, I think another example they used was like dog food. You got to get something that's heavier, a couple of things that you just can't carry yourself. Well, instead of driving a car, you could have your little Jita Mini robot follow along with you and go shopping with you, and you can stuff everything into there. This the robot, the way it works is when you stand in front of it, you hit a wake button and it scans whoever's right in front of it, and then that's who it identifies as its person, and that's who it follows. So it will follow you where you go. It's got all kinds of tracking software and cameras on it. It's supposedly so it can identify and not run into people, not run itself off of a cliff. It knows how to, go into a door. It pairs with an app on your phone. And they said essentially anywhere that a wheelchair can go, this thing can go. And let's see, how many miles does it go? 6 miles an hour. This one carries about 20 pounds. You can do 21 miles on a charge. And this is what they're pushing. Now, the price tag was kind of spendy. So it's anywhere between $1,800 to $2,100, depending on, I guess, a couple of add-ons you can get on there. But they're saying this could be the future, and they believe this is where people are eventually going to be going, is that we'll have our little personal robots with us to carry our stuff. Winnie, what do you think about this? And anybody watching too, drop in your comments. Like, is this something you would want? It said, let's take away the price. Is this something you would want to walk around with?
So, okay, I can see where this is heading, Greg. I'm kind of loving this, but I kind of don't think it's that practical. I will say this, for those of you who have kids like I do, right? Have you seen how heavy these backpacks are? I mean, when I was at UCLA, I was a poli-sci major. And so the books, I used to joke that they would have us read books by the pound because they were so heavy. But like nowadays, like my son, like he has a backpack on wheels and things like that. And like I remember at UCLA, we had this thing called broom walk to walk up this big hill, right? With like your backpack. Definitely was heavy. I can see that being there. Maybe occasionally when we go to the farmer's market and just buying like way too much fruit, which I have a tendency to do. But then I'm not sure that this would be my everyday robot because like I feel like I can probably do away with just like, a suitcase with wheels probably can be sufficient for this, but I'm kind of loving the cool factor. But one thing that you said, Greg, is that it can sense who's in front of you and follow. But what if it follows somebody else because it senses somebody else? But I guess maybe because I have it on my phone, it will follow me, right?
Yeah, I believe it's the combination of the app and then the scan is so good. So it knows who the person is. I'd have to look into it a little bit more, but I would imagine that the app plays a big role. But yeah, the cameras on it are pretty good as far as what it's able to sense. I think it's got, I believe it's LiDAR on there, a few other options. It's the 2 cameras, depth sensing radar. So it's got some pretty high-tech options on there as far as following you, although that would be weird. You're in the store and all of a sudden your robot's following somebody else at the store. That would be.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you have to be pretty rich to have one of these. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if you go to the store, you have a shopping cart. If you leave, I guess they're trying to replace a car. So you have a very specific market. Like obviously I live in California. We are very car dependent. I can't see
Right.
myself. But maybe like if I was in New York City, maybe this would be great. But then I have a lot of friends that live in New York City. And I would say that they would probably need a little bit more room than how much this robot. It looks like even if
Yeah.
the vegetables are hanging out of the robot. So
Yeah,
I should
there's a
have seen
bigger
that.
version of this. This is the mini version they're pushing right now, and the
Mhm.
bigger version I can't remember how much it holds, but a little bit more. Yeah, it's not a ton. I mean, I could see maybe occasionally using that here in Portland. I mean, there's a lot of hills, so I don't want to carry a bunch
That
of stuff up a hill. Have the robot do it. But yeah, I think it's a pretty targeted market for
Yeah.
this.
And then what do people complain? How people complain when you ride your bike or your skateboard
Yeah,
on the
get your
sidewalk? Or they
robot
come,
off the
get
sidewalk.
your robot. It's in my way.
Yeah, that's somebody will definitely complain about it. The other part of the study, they said, pulling this facts up here. So this is from the International Federation of Robotics, that apparently service robots are already an $11 billion industry. And we're just at the start of that.
Wow.
So, going forward, it may not be this one, but eventually within a couple of years, I think you're going to see more and more of these kinds of robots out on the road and on the sidewalk. Like they're going to start showing up places. They're already on like college campuses, the little delivery bots. But,
Really?
yeah. Yeah. There's a bunch of college campuses that have them on there right now.
Wow.
Where I don't know what else, I think like little convenience store stuff, and sometimes maybe pizza. But you can see they'll rolling around on college campuses. So yeah, personal robots.
See, this was interesting. I'm really glad you made this point, Greg. I think like college campus is a really great opportunity for robot usage, right? And I also think that they gotta rethink, like, how like a lot of people need transportation to school. Like there needs to be there needs to be some sort of like halfway point between a bicycle and a car that gives you the protection, but also the eco friendliness and the space considerations. But yeah, I really love your segments. I love to learn about this and think about how we would utilize this in a day to day.
Yeah. Sadiq, to answer your question, it's anywhere between, for the mini, it's anywhere between about $1,800 to $2,000, maybe $2,100. There's some certain add-ons you can get in there.
That's like a
yeah, right around $2,000, we'll say. So it's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but it's cool.
Yeah. Kind of cool. I don't know if I would use it either, but I like to see where it's going. So,
I feel like it's something you share. You share it with somebody.
It's some robots. All right. Going from there, we have this. So, for those of you in California, you're going to be the first here in North America, in the United States, to experience this. There is one in Japan, one in Japan right now. But it's coming to America. It is Super Mario World, the theme park. Or Super Nintendo World, Super Nintendo World, the theme park. And so this is going to be opening at Universal Studios. So it's going to be part of their extension right there. But as you can see, it is everything Super Mario. You've got Super Mario, you've got Mario, Luigi, Peach, you got Donkey Kong, all kinds of things. And they're big, giant rides that you get to ride and experience as though you're in Mario's world. You can see right there, you got some Koopa Troopas, you got some coins. They're going to pair it up with a bracelet. So kind of like they do at Disney already, but this will be a bracelet specific for this, where you can tap it and you can get coins. You can interact with different things. That part costs a little bit more to use it there. But this, so far, from everything I've seen, this is a lot of, I believe, this might be from the California one, but it's just like the one in Japan. It looks pretty fun. I mean, I want to go there. I want to definitely try this out. Now, I said it's the coolest theme park. There's another one that I want to go. I haven't been to Galaxy Quest yet, so that may be, or Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy Quest is a whole different thing. Galaxy's Edge, so I haven't been there yet. This looks fun, and it's coming February 17th to California, to Universal Studios. So, Winnie, you are not too far away from this, I believe, to where you could actually go there. But I want to know what people think about this. Is this something you'd want to go to? Is it something you're interested in? Maybe it's just because I played all the Super Mario games that I like it. But maybe it's not interesting to everybody else. I think
I love this. This is awesome. I tell you right now, this is like right up Joshua's. I'm just waiting for Joshua to tell me what he thinks. But let me he says definitely looking forward to Super Nintendo World. Let me tell you, Greg, I love that. And you're absolutely right. Universal Studios is not far from me at all. Not only that, is many NBC employees I work with, and I have worked with her for very many years as my clients, and I do speaking with them and all sorts of stuff. So this is a great excuse. And what I love about Universal Studios versus some of the other theme parks is they have a lot of these interactive functions, right? They did that with the Harry Potter exhibits where they had the wand that you could go around and tap things. This Universal is going to do this right. I have a feeling this is going to be super, super fun. And it saves me a trip to Japan because I was going to try to get to Tokyo to check this out. But how cool, February, that's not far at all. And but I will say this, I hope that Universal has figured out the crowd situation for this, because Universal Studios has a reputation for like having really long lines. So they have a lot of really splashy rides, but if you're a regular person that buys a ticket and goes to their theme park, you be lucky if you can ride 6 rides in one day, because they don't have a good fast pass system. But unless you pay, like, I think it's like $75 to $80 a day, which, let's be honest, is almost like an extra ticket at another theme park for another day, right? So it's very pricey. So I'm hoping they can figure that out, because if you are getting people, you know, there needs to be sort of that happy medium. I think Disney's done a little bit better job with their fast pass system being more affordable.
Yeah.
Universal, I'm hoping will do that as well.
Yeah, that's true. If you're waiting that long, and I imagine this is going to be very popular when it comes out.
Yeah.
Steve's asking, will it come to Orlando Universal? So it was scheduled to go there next year, but I think it's now they're thinking it's going to be at least a couple of years. It's going to eventually make it there, but it's not going to happen right away. If for some reason that one keeps getting delayed. So, but 2025. They said construction delays are keeping it back till 2025 in Orlando. So yeah, California is going to be the place to go to for it to start off.
California, come on over, have it in and out. It's a great.
I mean, it looks like a lot of fun. If I could hit that and Galaxy's Edge, yeah, it'd be pretty good. That'd be cool.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think you'll have to come. I know you have family in SoCal.
I do.
Greg, it's a good excuse, and I'm just say February is the weather's gonna be perfect in February. So
I think it's not a bad idea. Although I might wait for those crowds. Now that you just mentioned that, I might wait till it thins out a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe later on. But
I'm gonna reach out to my friends. Maybe we can go on a media day prior to the crowds.
Now you're talking. I'll be right down.
I'm like writing my notes. Okay, reach out to blah blah blah.
Yes, that would be cool. So that's kind of the big news that just happened today too. So a lot of this is just coming out today. End of the year, still cool to get some announcements that are happening, and as we wrap it up. So that's what I had. So it's I don't know, pretty fun.
I know. Look, Joshua is saying that'd be fun. Yes, it absolutely will fun. And City, hopefully, like Greg had mentioned, it'll come to your neck of the woods very soon as well. But yeah, we just so appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully, this was helpful and interesting and keeping you on top of things. We try to, bring in those big trending topics that we think that you find interesting and fun. Of course, huge thanks to Greg, because Greg is always keeping us ahead of everybody else. Like, I'm always like the coolest person because I know about robots, and I have to say it's thanks to Greg keeping me on top. Now I can talk about a robot that could follow you around, everywhere and
carry your bags.
carry groceries and carry book bags. I mean, like I think not for me, because it's to me it's a little, the sticker shock is still too high. But like Sadiq has said, maybe I think if they could get this to the price of those robots that vacuum your floor, right?
Yes.
That's like a few $100s, right? I think if you can get like a movement robot in that realm, that price realm, I think more people would be open to paying for that. And that'd be super cool. Like, imagine being on a college campus, right? And having your robot join you with your books, and then you could have a robot parking lot.
Yeah,
they're gonna have
everybody's robots go park. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think we're going to be, eventually it's going to go that way. There's going to be a lot more of these. But you're right. The sticker shock's a little bit too high for me right now too. I don't. Yeah. I mean, my laziness of carrying something up the hill is not going to be overtaken by that sticker price.
Exactly. Yeah. You can get one of those like little those little wire shopping cart things for like $20-$30. That I've done that at the farmer's market. That's okay. But Elon, maybe this holiday you've treated your employees pretty roughly. My suggestion is maybe get them something nice. Get them something thoughtful. Yeah.
Just stop tweeting for a couple of days.
Oh yes, please. For the
That
sake of
too.
let's just go with that. But I don't know. We'll see. Tomorrow's supposed to be some big announcement, so we'll see
Yeah.
what happens there.
Yeah.
But thank you, Greg, for all the updates. Super, super helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, this is always so much fun, and really just appreciate everybody joining in and commenting. It's so nice being here with everybody and just having fun and talking about these topics and getting your opinions, and really, really cool.
It is really cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And please do us a favor and share the show with someone that you care about. Tag anybody. And of course, if you think of something interesting that we didn't mention, definitely share it with us on social or direct message. And if you share it on social, please tag us so we can probably thank you. I want to say a big thank you to Sadiq this week. Huge thank you, Sadiq, for being so good about sharing the show. Joshua, I can't thank you enough. Vicky's not here with us today, but Vicky, thank you as well for doing that as well. We saw those shares on social, so we really appreciate that so much. But with that, I guess that's a week, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Looks for us.
All right.
All right. Take care. See
Thanks,
you
everybody. Bye.
Bye.